Hi there. I want to begin by introducing myself, who I am, where I come from, and what my intentions are today. So my name is Kai Scott. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a proud step-parent, auntie, partner, dog mom, daughter, and sister. My home, where I'm recording this video today, is on Musqueam First Nation territory. This is land that was never surrendered by Indigenous groups, and it was stolen by colonizing settlers. It was originally known as Qualam, which translates to driftwood place, and this land was stewarded by the people of the River Grass, whose ancestors continue growing along the Fraser River. Today it's called Richmond, BC, and Steveston Village, but the history of this land goes far beyond that colonizing name. My maternal family came to Canada through Iceland and Ireland, and my paternal lineage is second-generation British and Métis. So while I'm not an Indigenous person, I do have Indigenous ancestry, and part of my decolonizing journey as a student of social work at the University of Victoria is being able to give voice to my paternal great-grandmother's assimilation through systemic and overt racism that so-called Canada was founded on. I am here today as a member of the Indigenous Child and Family Services Directors, the Our Children, Our Way Society, on the Secretariat team. I'm a policy analyst, and I've been tasked with compiling relevant resources in an accessible manner for Indigenous child and family services agencies and the self-governing and self-determining nations that they serve. This presentation is meant to be an opportunity to build relationships between Indigenous leadership who hold the knowledge of what traditional laws and cultural practices look like for your children and families, and the Indigenous Child and Family Service Agency directors who hold the knowledge of child and family service delivery, including the wisdom and expertise garnered by the broader society as a collective. So I'm running you through this presentation today as an example, but please take this resource as an offering and feel free to use it in whatever way best suits you, your community, and your needs. So we begin by looking here at Planting Seeds, Growing Nations, which is what the title of the jurisdiction toolkit is called. And this is to give an overview and answer some of those key questions about how Indigenous child and family services can be provided under the new legislation, Bill C92, or an act respecting First Nations children and families. So we've used a diagram here to look at the life cycle of planting seeds and growing nations. So we look at the seeds as the example of what is Bill C92. So we look here at the life cycle. So we look here at the diagram, which represents the life cycle of growing seeds. And when we begin with this new legislation as the seeds, what is Bill C92 is the key question. We need to know what the legislation is to begin with. When we put the seeds into the soil, we can ask ourselves, which of these approaches do we want to pursue under the new legislation? And once those seeds are in the soil, we've made a choice, we might want to look at watering and nurturing the seeds by asking what approach have others taken. So we'll have a collection of resources that show what other nations have been doing and how they've been walking down this pathway so far. And then finally, we need the sunlight for those plants to grow. And so we have some offering as well as to what are the resources that are available for you and your nation to start with. So these are the four key questions that we'll be answering here. And of course, this is just a high level introduction to all of the possibilities. This is a complex, uncharted world in many ways. So we do just want to take the opportunity to simplify some of these key questions to begin the learning journey, not as a final product. And this presentation will continue to be updated as new resources become available. So I wanted to start with this video from the Indigenous Perspective Society. They do a wonderful job of discussing what this legislation is. So I'll stop talking and let someone else do the talking for a minute here. The video is about 9 minutes, 45 seconds. So here we go. So you'll see here that we now have the key question on the first slide. What is Bill C92? So Bill C92 is titled An Act Respecting First Nations, Inuit, and Métis Children, Youth, and Families, commonly referred to as the Act. It recognizes the authority of Indigenous communities and groups to develop and enact policies based on their particular histories, cultures, and circumstances. So in the document, you'll be able to actually click out and access all of these materials. But we have the executive summary here from Bill C92, the Canadian Bar Association, which is an overview of what the possibilities and restraints are with this legislation. We've also got a plain language summary, the preliminary briefing note that comes from the First Nations Caring Society. We've got as well a video that'll link out to YouTube, and the folks at the Wakatoan Law do a wonderful job at a community level of talking through what the process has been and the different considerations. So this is another really helpful starting place. And then finally, at the very bottom here, this is a government website that we've linked in. And just to give you a sense of what different levels of delegations are, and so how the system has been operating. It's not something that I don't think many agency directors would say it's something to be too concerned with or even to put too much thought or time into, other than this is what agencies have been constricted by and how they have had to be working in these delegation levels. But this is something that can definitely go out the window if that's how you want to go as you're writing your own laws. So the next key question in soil is, which jurisdictional approach do we want to pursue? So you can start asking questions. What are our nation's principles, beliefs, and values to center our service provision on? So there's a number of different resources to get you thinking here on this question. The first one links out to our Indigenous Child and Family Services Directors Society webpage. So there are two distinct paths that are available to jurisdiction, and depending on your own working group, your own knowledge keepers, one may make more sense than the other, but this is a really nice, easy way to read through and look through what those two different options are. There's also an infographic that's linked in here that comes from Indigenous Services Canada. The Assembly of First Nations also gave a really helpful 4-page overview, and this is about the process of giving notice. So once you've decided which option you might want to go through, these are some considerations when you're giving notice to the federal government. And then the last link here is much more fulsome in terms of thinking about the work plan that might come around. So this is a good example, and this comes from Two Bears consulting firm that Bart Knutsgaard has very generously offered to share in some of his other work. So being able to open up this PowerPoint here and look through, it's certainly not meant to be prescriptive in any way, but just one option or opportunity to start thinking through how are we going to use this legislation to deliver services in a good way according with our own laws and customs and values. So lots on this slide here. And as with everything, it all links out. So feel free to click through and give more time to what makes sense to you and less time to what doesn't.